ꯇꯥꯕꯤꯔꯤꯕ ꯄꯨꯝꯅꯃꯛꯄꯨ ꯑꯍꯥꯟꯕꯃꯛꯇꯗ Library of Manipurna ꯈꯨꯔꯨꯝꯖꯔꯤ ꯂꯦꯡꯁꯤꯟꯕꯤꯗꯨꯅ ꯂꯩꯔꯦ ꯍꯧꯖꯤꯛ ꯏꯝꯐꯥꯜꯗ ꯂꯩꯕꯤꯔꯤꯕ ꯑꯩꯒꯤ ꯌꯥꯝꯅ ꯅꯨꯡꯁꯤꯖꯔꯕꯤ ꯏꯃꯥ ꯑꯗꯨꯒ ꯄꯨꯝꯅꯃꯛꯅ ꯌꯥꯝꯅ ꯅꯨꯡꯁꯤꯅ ꯑꯣꯖꯥ ꯁꯔꯣꯖ ꯅꯂꯤꯅꯤ ꯈꯣꯝꯗ꯭ꯔꯥꯝ ꯍꯥꯏꯅ ꯃꯤꯡꯒꯧꯕꯤꯕ ꯏꯃꯥꯕꯨꯁꯨ ꯈꯨꯔꯨꯝꯖꯔꯤ
ꯑꯩꯍꯥꯛꯅꯁꯨ ꯉꯁꯤꯒꯤ ꯇꯤꯟꯕꯤꯔꯤꯕ ꯑꯍꯜ ꯂꯃꯟ ꯂꯥꯏꯕꯨꯁꯤꯡ ꯏꯆꯥꯁꯤꯡ ꯏꯅꯥꯎꯁꯤꯡ ꯏꯄ꯭ꯋꯥꯁꯤꯡ ꯏꯁꯨꯁꯤꯡ ꯈ꯭ꯋꯥꯏꯗꯒꯤꯕꯨ ꯈꯨꯋꯥꯝ ꯇꯔꯥ ꯂꯣꯟꯅꯖꯔꯒ ꯈꯣꯏꯔꯝꯖꯔꯤ ꯚꯛꯇꯤ ꯀꯠꯆꯔꯤ ꯀꯣꯛꯅꯖꯔꯤ
ꯄꯨꯝꯅꯃꯛꯅ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯁꯦꯇꯔꯗꯦ ꯈꯨꯗꯤꯡꯒꯤ ꯇꯧꯖꯕ ꯃꯅꯤꯄꯨꯔꯤ ꯂꯤꯇꯔꯦꯆꯔꯗ ꯐꯣꯀꯁ ꯇꯧꯔꯒ ꯁꯤꯟꯖꯕ ꯄ꯭ꯔꯣꯒ꯭ꯔꯥꯝ ꯑꯁꯤ ꯀꯗꯥꯏꯗꯒꯤ ꯌꯦꯡꯕꯤꯔꯛꯏꯕꯅꯣ ꯀꯔꯝ ꯇꯧꯕꯤꯔꯤ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯗꯨ ꯁꯣꯏꯗꯅ ꯑꯃꯨꯛꯇꯪ ꯀꯃꯦꯟꯇ ꯇꯧꯕꯤꯔꯛꯎ ꯑꯩꯅꯁꯨ ꯇꯦꯛꯅꯤꯀꯦꯜꯂꯤ ꯑꯃꯨꯛꯇꯪ ꯁꯦꯌꯔ ꯇꯧꯒꯦ ꯌꯦꯡꯖꯒꯦ ꯑꯗꯨꯕꯨ ꯌꯦꯡꯗ꯭ꯔꯤꯉꯩꯁꯤꯗ ꯌꯥꯝ ꯅꯨꯡꯁꯤꯕ ꯄꯤꯛꯆꯔ ꯑꯃ ꯑꯩ ꯎꯠꯆꯔꯛꯀꯦ ꯃꯁꯤ ꯏꯗꯀꯤ ꯃꯇꯥꯡꯗ ꯊꯥꯒꯠꯂꯛꯄꯅꯤ ꯑꯗꯨ ꯃꯁꯤꯒꯤ ꯄꯤꯛꯆꯔꯁꯤ ꯑꯃꯨꯛꯇꯪ ꯃꯤꯠꯌꯦꯡ ꯇꯥꯕꯤꯌꯨ ꯌꯥꯝꯅ ꯅꯨꯡꯁꯤꯕ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯃꯩꯇꯩ ꯑꯍꯟ ꯑꯃꯒ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯃꯨꯁꯂꯤꯝ ꯃꯩꯇꯩ ꯑꯃꯒ ꯃꯈꯨꯠ ꯁꯝꯅꯔꯀꯥꯟꯗ ꯌꯦꯡꯕ ꯌꯥꯝ ꯅꯨꯡꯁꯤꯅ ꯆꯠꯃꯤꯟꯅꯕꯒꯤ ꯄꯤꯛꯆꯔꯅꯤ ꯃꯁꯤ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯏꯗ ꯃꯨꯕꯥꯔꯛ ꯏꯗ 2025ꯀꯤ ꯗ ꯊꯥꯒꯠꯄꯤꯔꯛꯄꯅꯤ ꯔꯤꯌꯥꯂꯤ ꯂꯨꯋꯥꯡꯅ Xꯇ ꯑꯗꯨꯅ Xꯁꯦ ꯑꯩ ꯀꯌꯥ ꯑꯦꯛꯇꯤꯚ ꯑꯣꯏꯗꯕꯅꯦ ꯑꯗꯨꯕꯨ ꯑꯩ ꯍꯟꯗꯛ ꯈꯔ ꯑꯦꯛꯇꯤꯚ ꯑꯃꯨꯛ ꯑꯣꯏꯖꯔꯤ ꯃꯌꯥꯝ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯄꯥꯎ ꯅꯨꯡ ꯀꯅꯥꯅ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏ ꯃꯅꯤꯄꯨꯔꯒꯤ ꯃꯔꯝꯗ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯤ ꯀꯥꯏꯅ ꯑꯗꯨꯒꯨꯝꯕ ꯌꯦꯡꯕꯗ ꯑꯗꯨꯗ ꯃꯁꯤꯒꯤ ꯀꯩꯅꯣꯁꯦ ꯃꯩꯇꯩ ꯄꯥꯡꯒꯟ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯁꯦ ꯄꯥꯡꯒꯟꯗ ꯃꯩꯇꯩ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯤꯁꯦ ꯀꯔꯤꯒꯤꯅꯣ ꯀꯥꯏꯅ ꯑꯉꯥꯡꯁꯤꯡꯅ ꯑꯩꯗꯤ ꯃꯩꯇꯩꯒ ꯄꯥꯡꯒꯟꯒꯤ ꯔꯤꯂꯦꯁꯟꯁꯦ ꯀꯔꯤꯅꯣ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯁꯦ ꯈꯪꯗꯕꯁꯨ ꯑꯗꯨꯝ ꯑꯉꯥꯡꯁꯤꯡ ꯌꯥꯎꯕꯤꯔꯤ ꯑꯗꯨꯅ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏ ꯈꯪꯗꯕ ꯌꯥꯝ ꯂꯩꯔꯤ ꯑꯩ ꯏꯁꯥꯃꯛꯁꯨ ꯅꯨꯡꯇꯤꯒꯤ ꯂꯔꯅꯤꯡꯅꯤ ꯇꯧꯖꯔꯤꯁꯤ ꯑꯗꯨꯅ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯀꯃꯦꯟꯠ ꯑꯃ ꯄꯤꯗ꯭ꯔꯤꯉꯩꯗ ꯑꯩꯅ ꯈꯪꯗꯕ ꯑꯣꯏꯔꯝꯒꯅꯤ ꯀꯔꯤ ꯑꯣꯏꯕꯖꯥꯠꯅꯣ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯁꯦ ꯃꯁꯤ ꯑꯣꯄꯟ ꯑꯣꯏꯃꯤꯟꯅꯁꯦꯅ ꯑꯩ ꯍꯥꯏꯖꯅꯤꯡꯉꯤ ꯀꯔꯤꯒꯤꯅꯣ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯒ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯅ ꯃꯩꯇꯩ ꯄꯥꯡꯒꯟꯒꯤ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯛꯄ ꯀꯥꯟꯗ ꯀꯔꯤꯒꯤꯅꯣ ꯃꯩꯇꯩꯑꯅ ꯇꯞꯄꯤꯁꯦ ꯀꯥꯏꯅ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏ ꯑꯦꯊꯅꯤꯛꯀꯤ ꯀꯟꯐ꯭ꯌꯨꯖꯟ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯦ ꯂꯩꯕꯁꯦ ꯁꯤꯅ ꯁꯨꯃꯥꯏꯅꯁꯨ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯤꯔꯛꯑꯦ ꯑꯗꯣ ꯑꯩ ꯑꯝꯇꯪ ꯁꯦꯌꯔ ꯇꯧꯖꯒꯦ ꯆꯦꯛ ꯇꯧꯖꯒꯦ ꯄꯨꯝꯅꯃꯛ ꯅꯁꯨ ꯑꯃꯨꯛꯇꯪ ꯁꯦꯌꯔ ꯇꯧꯕꯤꯌꯨ ꯑꯗꯣ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯅ ꯁꯦꯌꯔ ꯇꯧꯔꯤꯉꯩꯁꯤꯗ ꯏꯃꯥ ꯀꯃꯥꯏꯅ ꯇꯧꯕꯤꯔꯤ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯗꯣ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯗ ꯑꯃꯨꯛꯇꯪ ꯄꯥꯎ ꯇꯝꯕꯤꯌꯨ
ꯑꯩ ꯋꯥ ꯉꯥꯡꯕ ꯌꯥꯔꯦ ꯍꯥꯟꯅ ꯐꯣꯟ ꯁꯤꯔꯝꯕꯗꯣ ꯐꯔꯦ ꯑꯗꯨꯒꯤꯁꯨ ꯅꯨꯡꯉꯥꯏ ꯏꯁꯣꯔꯕꯨ ꯊꯥꯒꯠꯂꯤ ꯑꯗꯨꯒ ꯃꯅꯤꯄꯨꯔꯗ ꯂꯥꯛꯄꯗꯒꯤꯗꯤ ꯑꯩꯒꯤ ꯅꯨꯡꯇꯤꯒꯤ ꯄ꯭ꯔꯣꯒ꯭ꯔꯥꯝꯁꯤ ꯑꯗꯨꯝ ꯂꯩꯔꯦ ꯍꯥꯏꯖꯕ ꯇꯥꯔꯦ ꯑꯗꯨꯒ ꯃꯄꯥꯟꯗ ꯆꯠꯂꯒꯅ ꯑꯗꯨꯝ ꯄ꯭ꯔꯣꯒ꯭ꯔꯥꯝꯁꯦ ꯈꯤꯇꯪ ꯀꯨꯡꯗꯕ ꯑꯗꯨꯅ ꯑꯩꯅ ꯂꯥꯏꯔꯤꯛ ꯂꯣꯝꯗ ꯑꯃꯨꯛ ꯐꯣꯀꯁ ꯇꯧꯕꯁꯦ ꯑꯃꯨꯛ ꯍꯦꯟꯕ ꯁꯤꯗꯅ ꯊꯕꯛ ꯑꯃ ꯆꯠꯂꯨꯔꯒ ꯑꯃꯨꯛ ꯋꯥꯕ ꯍꯥꯏꯗꯤ ꯆꯍꯤꯗꯨꯒꯤ ꯃꯇꯥꯡꯗꯨꯅ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯁꯦ ꯀꯟꯕꯗꯤ ꯅꯠꯇ꯭ꯔꯦ ꯑꯗꯨꯕꯨ ꯑꯩꯅ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯒꯤ ꯎꯅꯕ ꯁꯤꯗꯗꯤ ꯑꯩꯅ ꯌꯥꯝ ꯅꯨꯡꯁꯤꯅ ꯏꯁꯣꯔꯅ ꯄꯤꯔꯛꯄꯅꯤ ꯑꯩꯁꯤ ꯏꯁꯣꯔꯗ ꯑꯩꯅ ꯑꯗꯨꯝ ꯍꯥꯏꯖꯔꯒ ꯂꯥꯛꯄꯅꯤ ꯃꯔꯝꯗꯤ ꯑꯩꯒꯤ ꯆꯍꯤ 70 ꯁꯤꯒꯤ ꯍꯦꯜꯂꯛꯄ ꯃꯇꯨꯡꯗꯗꯤ ꯑꯩꯁꯦ ꯁꯣꯁꯥꯏꯇꯤꯗ ꯈꯤꯇꯪ ꯄꯥꯝꯕ ꯑꯗꯨꯒ ꯁꯣꯁꯥꯏꯇꯤꯅ ꯅꯨꯡꯉꯥꯏꯕ ꯊꯕꯛ ꯑꯃ ꯄꯤꯕꯤꯌꯨ ꯀꯥꯏꯁꯦ ꯑꯩꯅ ꯏꯁꯣꯔꯗ ꯑꯗꯨꯝ ꯍꯥꯏꯖꯕꯅꯤ ꯑꯩ ꯑꯍꯥꯟꯕꯗ ꯄꯦꯂꯦꯇꯤꯚ ꯀꯦꯌꯔꯁꯤꯗ ꯑꯗꯨꯝ ꯑꯣꯏꯔꯕꯣꯏꯅ ꯑꯃꯗꯤ ꯄꯤꯔꯦꯅ ꯀꯥꯏꯅ ꯈꯟꯖꯩ ꯑꯗꯨ ꯄꯥꯕꯁꯤꯗ ꯑꯩꯒꯤ ꯃꯔꯨꯞ ꯃꯄꯥꯡ ꯑꯗꯩ ꯆꯠꯈꯤꯕ ꯃꯐꯝꯗꯁꯨ ꯑꯩꯁꯦ ꯑꯗꯨꯝ ꯀꯧꯕꯤꯔꯛꯄ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯅ ꯑꯗꯨ ꯑꯩꯉꯣꯟꯗ ꯌꯥꯝ ꯄ꯭ꯂꯦꯖꯔ ꯑꯃ ꯐꯥꯎꯕꯗꯣ ꯑꯗꯨ ꯍꯥꯏꯅ ꯑꯩ ꯇꯝꯖꯒꯦ ꯑꯗꯨꯒ ꯂꯣꯏꯅꯅ ꯑꯗꯨꯝ ꯑꯩ ꯀꯩꯅꯣꯅꯤ ꯉꯁꯤꯗꯤ ꯄꯨꯡ ꯑꯃ ꯈꯔ ꯍꯦꯟꯅ ꯄꯥꯕ ꯉꯝꯅꯦꯅ ꯑꯩ ꯈꯟꯖꯔꯤ ꯉꯁꯤꯒꯤꯁꯤꯗ ꯑꯁꯨꯃꯥꯏꯅ ꯑꯩ ꯊꯝꯖꯒꯦ
ꯑꯗꯨꯗꯤ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏ ꯉꯁꯤꯒꯤ ꯄ꯭ꯔꯣꯒ꯭ꯔꯥꯝꯁꯤꯗ ꯏꯃꯥꯅ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯂꯥꯁ ꯋꯤꯛꯇ ꯔꯣꯕꯤꯟ ꯁꯔꯃꯥꯒꯤ ꯃꯅꯤꯄꯨꯔꯤ ꯇ꯭ꯔꯥꯟꯁꯂꯦꯁꯟꯗ ꯐꯣꯀꯁ ꯇꯧꯖꯕꯅꯤ ꯃꯗꯨꯒꯤ ꯁꯦꯀꯦꯟ ꯄꯥꯔꯠ ꯑꯣꯏꯅ ꯏꯃꯥꯅ ꯇꯧꯕꯤꯒꯅꯤꯅ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯤꯔꯦ ꯑꯗꯨꯒ ꯑꯩꯅ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯏꯪꯂꯤꯁꯀꯤ ꯁꯦꯛꯁꯟꯁꯦ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯀꯩꯅꯣ ꯈꯔ ꯑꯃꯨꯛ ꯐꯣꯀꯁ ꯇꯧꯖꯕꯅꯤ ꯑꯗꯨ ꯃꯁꯤꯗꯩꯁꯤꯗ ꯑꯩꯅ ꯂꯥꯏꯔꯤꯛ ꯑꯅꯧꯕ ꯑꯃ ꯐꯪꯖꯕ ꯃꯁꯤꯒꯤ ꯂꯥꯏꯔꯤꯛꯁꯤ ꯑꯩꯒꯤ ꯀꯦꯃꯦꯔꯥꯁꯦ ꯑꯝꯇꯪ ꯁꯦꯝꯗꯣꯛꯆꯒꯦ Okay, smain tawate ure. The socio-cultural and historical account of Manipur hairi balarik asi Naoroibam Indramani na ibiraga daibani masiki sida yamna akhoi Manipur ki relevant oiba chapter yamna yaujari masi ama khangatsaraga ai ngasi mayamda share tawjage. Adudi imada sinazaraga imana program asi hobinabagidamata.
Aina Robin Sharma gi Nahakna siraga kanana kaphougani haibase ai ahambada yang ka hena pade paung tombina ibu lehan gibani 5-6 years before that masigi larik sebe mayam kana bani nang lai wona aina pauna bazagi pareng duda thiraga ai lejagi aduga handakhi ozana leitraba matam sida larik se chu hek tholakhi ba hai tare aduna mana saisida piri base mana saisida chapter siam yami adu teli mai chapter singhe akhoi miyoiba manane akhoi na raure kwa matamda so angang singda tambigeda base loi tambiba ngamde magi chapter du khara bhap ta halaga adum 45 minutes so adum hoki bani adugu lari koina paraga di nahangna siraga kanana kaphogani haidana who will cry when you die haisida yamna phajaba chamaga ama si yaw basi aina loina ba pa basi ngamudaba ado handakti ai pare pa basi da nahamo aina pajagi badu isage haina ba simpham khangdu si asi am very important oiba masi aina 11 class taglak pasi sai kun thra mo oirangani masai sida khwarakpam chawbagi sinpham mo na ba haina parama syllabus yawrami huji yawgidre madu angang de am kana bo oiba akoina mama mapana sinpham ji piraga nang doctor oigadamni haina he pressure tawa engineer oigadawni he pressure tawa sigum base yamna akoigi angang da negative yam piba ma masana pamjaba sinpham da chatlan base ado masa ai last kenoda isagi hainaba sinpham khangdo se haisidasu khwarapam chawbana irambadu nainaraba matung sida magi yam phajana yaudi adagi amu ani suba se ai ani suba om suba mari manga se aina ngamba makai ai pajage ko numit khudingi lamlan ba kanagumbada thaujan utpa kawganu hai lamlan ba ai imungi isa isu nataba isa imo aduga nataba lamlan ba masi yam arthleba masi ai huji pajarage aduga aina ngasi padori basi ani subani ahum subasina nasagi wakal miyeng honganu aina khangi ba wakhando miyeng am hongnei dana Manipur gi haitare context idi chawjarak panina wakhal miyeng hongbasina kairakpa mayam sulaitaba dinate aduga taraina khanganu nungsibabu ka hairi nongmagi isinba lepkanu kaina adu manga phausi ai paba ngambre ai yangjage tentak tawi chamaga amani ko mana ira piramise ado mia tabi ba mayam na suma sikane kanade haba su kitang panbiramu ai na paba da kanada bo oiraga di atopa ma su he khongdong ningba ai sina aduna mayam na habiraktraga dikhangdedana aduna simasu ayang na mayam na nijari numi khudingi lamlan ba kanagumba thaujang utpa kawganoi de khoi life silei ngei daniko asi phamungda leiraba matamda aldas hasklina mapunsida herak khanglakpa punamak tasin na wakhan khalaki aduga madu punamak sumnagi asumba wahai asamba ngakpigani asamba wahai taret khakta phongdok lami aikhoi masel amaga hena thaujal haiba unarasi kayarak hanna aikhoina thajai maduri tasengna peningai oiraba punsi ama hingnabagidamata magazine natraga pause singi mamangi lamaida isagi saktambu mayek lana haplaga asauba thabak natraga yamna hek ngamnadaba thaudo ama pangthokadabani asumna asimuk chumbadagi nathairaba wafam ama makha leitre mapung phaba wahanthok leiraba punsi haibadudi nungti gi pangthokpada lemjaningai oiraba thabak ꯊꯧꯖꯥꯜ ꯍꯩꯕ ꯑꯗꯨꯅ ꯑꯣꯏꯒꯗꯕꯅꯤ ꯃꯥꯅ ꯇꯥꯛꯄꯤꯔꯤꯁꯦ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯤꯕꯁꯦ ꯑꯃꯔꯣꯝꯗꯗꯤ ꯑꯣꯟꯅ ꯇꯩꯅꯕ ꯃꯥꯜꯂꯕꯁꯨ ꯇꯁꯦꯡꯕꯗꯤ ꯄꯨꯟꯁꯤ ꯑꯃ ꯃꯄꯨꯡ ꯐꯥꯅ ꯍꯤꯡꯂꯛꯄ ꯃꯇꯝꯗꯗꯤ ꯑꯆꯧꯕ ꯁꯛꯇꯝ ꯂꯧꯔꯛꯑꯦ ꯅꯍꯥꯛꯀꯤ ꯄꯨꯟꯁꯤꯗ ꯊꯦꯡꯅꯔꯤꯕ ꯃꯤꯑꯣꯏ ꯈꯨꯗꯤꯡꯃꯛ ꯃꯤꯉꯣꯟꯗ ꯇꯝꯕꯤꯅꯤꯡꯉꯥꯏ ꯄꯔꯥ ꯑꯃ ꯌꯥꯎꯔꯤ ꯑꯗꯨꯒ ꯂꯤꯅꯤꯡꯉꯥꯏ ꯋꯥꯔꯤ ꯑꯃꯁꯨ ꯂꯩꯖꯔꯤ ꯅꯍꯥꯛꯀꯤ ꯅꯨꯃꯤꯠꯁꯤꯡꯕꯨ ꯁꯥꯒꯠꯂꯤꯕ ꯃꯤꯀꯨꯞꯁꯤꯡ ꯑꯗꯨ ꯈꯨꯗꯤꯡꯃꯛꯇ ꯊꯦꯡꯅꯔꯤꯕ ꯃꯤꯑꯣꯏ ꯈꯨꯗꯤꯡꯃꯛꯇ ꯅꯉꯣꯟꯗ ꯅꯍꯥꯛꯀꯤ ꯃꯤꯑꯣꯏꯕꯒꯤ ꯃꯇꯧ ꯃꯁꯛ ꯇꯥꯛꯂꯤꯕ ꯃꯤꯅꯨꯡꯁꯤ ꯑꯃꯗꯤ ꯊꯧꯒꯜꯂꯣꯟꯒꯤ ꯃꯁꯛ ꯑꯗꯨ ꯎꯠꯄ ꯉꯝꯅꯕꯒꯤ ꯈꯨꯗꯣꯡꯆꯥꯕ ꯑꯃꯃꯝ ꯄꯤꯔꯤꯕꯅꯤ ꯑꯗꯨꯅ ꯅꯁꯥꯅ ꯇꯁꯦꯡꯅ ꯑꯣꯏꯔꯤꯕ ꯃꯤꯁꯛ ꯑꯗꯨ ꯅꯍꯥꯛꯅ ꯍꯤꯡꯂꯤꯉꯩ ꯃꯅꯨꯡꯁꯤꯗ ꯎꯠꯊꯣꯛꯇꯨꯅ ꯅꯍꯥꯛꯀꯤ ꯑꯀꯣꯏꯕꯗ ꯂꯩꯔꯤꯕ ꯇꯥꯏꯕꯪꯄꯥꯟꯁꯤꯒꯤ ꯐꯤꯕꯝ ꯍꯦꯟꯅ ꯐꯒꯠꯍꯟꯅꯕ ꯍꯣꯠꯅꯔꯣꯏꯗꯕꯒꯤ ꯃꯔꯝ ꯀꯔꯤ ꯂꯩ ꯑꯩꯒꯤ ꯋꯥꯈꯜꯗꯤ ꯅꯣꯡꯃꯒꯤ ꯃꯅꯨꯡꯗ ꯅꯍꯥꯛꯅ ꯀꯅꯥꯒꯨꯝꯕꯕꯨ ꯍꯥꯏꯐꯦꯠꯇ ꯑꯣꯏꯔꯕꯁꯨ ꯅꯣꯛꯍꯟꯕ ꯉꯝꯅꯕ ꯂꯝꯂꯥꯟꯕ ꯀꯅꯥꯒꯤ ꯄꯨꯛꯅꯤꯡ ꯋꯥꯈꯜꯕꯨ ꯃꯀꯥ ꯂꯥꯝꯍꯟꯕ ꯈꯔꯗꯪ ꯑꯣꯏꯔꯕꯁꯨ ꯉꯝꯂꯕꯗꯤ ꯅꯍꯥꯛꯀꯤ ꯑꯗꯨꯒꯨꯝꯕ ꯅꯨꯃꯤꯠ ꯑꯗꯣ ꯃꯇꯤꯛ ꯆꯥꯅ ꯍꯤꯡꯂꯕ ꯃꯇꯝꯒꯤ ꯈꯨꯖꯤꯡ ꯑꯃ ꯑꯣꯏꯔꯤꯕꯅꯤ ꯊꯧꯖꯥꯜ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯁꯦ ꯏꯆꯝ ꯆꯝꯅ ꯍꯦꯛꯇ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯗ ꯒ꯭ꯔꯍ ꯑꯁꯤꯗ ꯍꯤꯡꯂꯤꯕ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏ ꯀꯜꯂꯤꯕ ꯃꯐꯝ ꯑꯁꯤꯒꯤ ꯄꯤꯐꯝ ꯊꯣꯛꯄ ꯚꯔꯥ ꯑꯗꯨꯅꯤ ꯑꯩꯗꯤ ꯃꯥꯅ ꯀꯩꯅꯣ ꯑꯣꯏꯅ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯩ ꯋꯥꯅꯤ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯚꯔꯥ ꯄꯤꯕꯒꯨꯝꯅ ꯑꯗꯨꯒꯨꯝꯕ ꯃꯤꯕꯨ ꯄꯦꯜꯍꯟꯕ ꯅꯣꯡꯃꯒꯤ ꯃꯅꯨꯡꯗ ꯃꯤ ꯑꯃꯕꯨ ꯅꯣꯛꯍꯟꯕ ꯑꯐꯕ ꯋꯥꯈꯜ ꯈꯜꯍꯟꯕꯗꯨ ꯂꯝꯂꯥꯟꯕꯁꯤꯡꯅ ꯃꯤꯅꯨꯡꯁꯤ ꯎꯠꯄ ꯃꯇꯝꯗ ꯎꯠꯂꯤꯕ ꯃꯑꯣꯡ ꯑꯗꯣ ꯑꯅꯧꯕ ꯃꯁꯛ ꯊꯣꯛꯍꯟꯒꯗꯕꯅꯤ ꯃꯇꯨꯡꯗ ꯂꯥꯛꯄ ꯀꯥꯔ ꯌꯥꯎꯗꯅ ꯇꯣꯜꯗ ꯄꯩꯁꯥ ꯍꯦꯛ ꯊꯤꯕꯤꯔꯝꯕ ꯂꯩꯅꯨꯡꯒꯤ ꯇ꯭ꯔꯦꯟ ꯐꯝꯂꯝꯕꯗꯩ ꯀꯅꯥꯒꯨꯝꯕ ꯑꯃꯗ ꯅꯍꯥꯛꯀꯤ ꯐꯝꯐꯝꯕꯨ ꯍꯦꯛ ꯂꯥꯟꯊꯣꯛꯄ ꯑꯗꯨꯒ ꯃꯤ ꯎꯅꯕꯗ ꯍꯥꯟꯅ ꯍꯦꯛ ꯀꯧꯕ ꯑꯁꯤꯒꯨꯝꯕꯁꯦ ꯍꯥꯟꯅ ꯍꯧꯕ ꯌꯥꯕ ꯉꯥꯛꯃꯛꯇꯅꯤ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯇꯧꯕꯗꯣ ꯑꯗꯨꯅ ꯏꯀꯨꯏ ꯀꯨꯏꯗ꯭ꯔꯤꯉꯩꯒꯤ ꯃꯃꯥꯡꯗ ꯋꯥꯁꯤꯡꯇꯟ ꯁ꯭ꯇꯦꯠꯇ ꯂꯩꯕ ꯗ ꯃꯪꯛ ꯍꯨ ꯁꯣꯜ ꯄꯤꯁ ꯐꯦꯔꯥꯔꯤ ꯄꯥꯔꯕ ꯃꯤꯑꯣꯏꯕ ꯑꯃꯒꯤ ꯑꯏꯕ ꯄꯥꯎꯔꯣꯜ ꯑꯃ ꯑꯩꯅ ꯐꯪꯈꯤ ꯃꯗꯨꯗꯤ ꯅꯨꯄꯤ ꯑꯗꯨꯅ ꯏꯔꯛꯈꯤ ꯑꯩꯕꯨ ꯏꯁꯣꯔꯅ ꯂꯝꯕꯤꯗ ꯆꯠꯄꯗ ꯃꯇꯦꯡ ꯄꯥꯡꯕꯤꯕ ꯃꯤꯑꯣꯏꯁꯤꯡꯗ ꯑꯩꯅ ꯉꯝꯖꯕ ꯈꯔ ꯀꯠꯆꯕꯒꯤ ꯍꯩꯅꯕꯤ ꯑꯃ ꯑꯩꯒꯤ ꯂꯩꯖꯩ ꯃꯅꯨꯡꯗ ꯍꯥꯞꯆꯔꯤꯕ $100 ꯆꯥꯝꯃꯒꯤ ꯆꯦꯛ ꯑꯁꯤ ꯆꯥꯟꯕꯤꯗꯨꯅ ꯑꯩꯅ ꯄꯤꯖꯕ ꯌꯥꯏꯐ ꯊꯧꯅꯤꯒꯤ ꯋꯥꯈꯜ ꯑꯃꯗꯤ ꯇꯧꯕꯤꯃꯜ ꯈꯪꯕꯒ ꯂꯣꯏꯅꯅ ꯂꯧꯕꯤꯌꯨ ꯃꯍꯥꯛꯀꯤ ꯄꯥꯎꯈꯨꯝ ꯄꯟꯗꯅ ꯑꯩꯍꯥꯛꯅ ꯈꯟꯈꯤ ꯑꯩꯗꯤ ꯑꯣꯗꯤꯑꯣ ꯇꯦꯞ ꯄ꯭ꯔꯣꯒ꯭ꯔꯥꯝ ꯑꯃ ꯊꯥꯗꯨꯅ ꯃꯍꯥꯛꯅ ꯊꯥꯔꯛꯄ ꯈꯨꯗꯣꯜ ꯑꯗꯨꯒꯤ ꯃꯔꯝ ꯈꯔꯇꯪ ꯑꯣꯏꯔꯕꯁꯨ ꯍꯟꯖꯤꯟꯅꯕ ꯑꯣꯏꯅ ꯃꯍꯥꯛꯅ ꯎꯠꯂꯛꯈꯤꯕ ꯈꯨꯗꯝ ꯑꯗꯣ ꯊꯃꯣꯏ ꯁꯦꯡꯅ ꯅꯨꯡꯗꯒꯤ ꯄꯤꯅꯤꯡꯕ ꯄꯤꯕꯒꯤ ꯃꯔꯨꯑꯣꯏꯕꯒꯤ ꯑꯆꯧꯕ ꯄꯔꯥ ꯑꯃ ꯑꯣꯏꯈꯤ ꯍꯥꯏꯗꯤ ꯑꯩꯒꯤ ꯈꯛꯇꯪ ꯈꯟꯕ ꯅꯠꯇꯕꯗꯨꯅꯤ ꯑꯏꯕꯅ ꯅꯨꯃꯤꯠ ꯈꯨꯗꯤꯡꯒꯤ ꯂꯝꯂꯥꯟꯕ ꯀꯅꯥꯒꯨꯝꯕ ꯑꯃꯗ ꯊꯧꯖꯥꯜ ꯎꯠꯄ ꯀꯥꯎꯒꯅꯨ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯁꯦ ꯃꯁꯤꯒꯤ ꯄꯔꯥꯁꯤ ꯁꯤꯗ ꯂꯣꯏꯖꯔꯦ ꯑꯗꯨꯒ ꯑꯍꯨꯝꯁꯨꯕꯁꯤꯗ ꯑꯃꯨꯛ ꯑꯩ ꯃꯈꯥ ꯑꯗꯨꯝ ꯆꯠꯊꯖꯔꯛꯀꯦ ꯅꯁꯥꯒꯤ ꯋꯥꯈꯜ ꯃꯤꯠꯌꯦꯡ ꯍꯣꯡꯒꯅꯨ ꯁꯤꯗ ꯌꯥꯝ ꯏꯝꯄꯣꯔꯇꯦꯟ ꯑꯣꯏꯕ ꯑꯃꯁꯨ ꯑꯩꯅ ꯌꯥꯎꯔꯝꯒꯅꯦꯅ ꯈꯜꯂꯤ ꯃꯇꯝ ꯀꯨꯏꯔꯕꯒꯤ ꯋꯥꯔꯤꯅꯤ ꯅꯣꯡꯃ ꯌꯥꯝꯅ ꯀꯟꯅ ꯉꯝꯗ꯭ꯔꯕ ꯅꯨꯄꯥ ꯑꯃꯒꯤ ꯑꯅꯥ ꯂꯥꯏꯌꯦꯡꯒꯤ ꯀꯥ ꯑꯗꯣ ꯋꯤꯜ ꯆꯤꯌꯥꯔꯗ ꯐꯝꯍꯜꯂꯒ ꯄꯨꯁꯤꯜꯂꯛꯂꯦ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯒ ꯑꯇꯣꯞꯄ ꯑꯅꯥꯕ ꯑꯃꯅ ꯍꯤꯞꯂꯤꯕ ꯐꯃꯨꯡ ꯑꯃꯒꯤ ꯃꯅꯥꯛꯇ ꯊꯝꯃꯤ ꯃꯍꯥꯛꯀꯤ ꯐꯃꯨꯡ ꯑꯗꯨꯗꯤ ꯊꯣꯡꯅꯥꯎ ꯃꯌꯥ ꯅꯛꯅ ꯊꯥꯕꯣꯏꯔꯦ ꯃꯈꯣꯏ ꯑꯅꯤ ꯃꯔꯨꯞ ꯑꯣꯏꯔꯦ ꯊꯣꯡꯅꯥꯎꯒ ꯇꯥꯏꯅꯕ ꯑꯅꯥꯕ ꯑꯗꯨꯅ ꯃꯄꯥꯟꯗ ꯎꯔꯤꯕ ꯇꯥꯏꯕꯪꯒꯤ ꯁꯛꯇꯝ ꯑꯗꯣ ꯁꯤꯡꯊꯥꯗꯨꯅ ꯃꯍꯥꯛꯀꯤ ꯍꯧꯒꯠ ꯀꯥꯡꯈꯠꯄ ꯉꯝꯗ꯭ꯔꯕ ꯃꯔꯨꯞ ꯑꯗꯨꯅ ꯂꯤꯗꯨꯅ ꯅꯨꯡꯉꯥꯏꯍꯜꯂꯤ ꯀꯔꯤꯒꯨꯝꯕ ꯅꯨꯃꯤꯠꯇꯅ ꯑꯅꯥ ꯂꯥꯏꯌꯦꯡꯁꯪꯒꯤ ꯃꯃꯥꯡꯗ ꯂꯩꯔꯤꯕ ꯄꯥꯔꯛꯇ ꯍꯧꯔꯤꯕ ꯎꯄꯥꯜꯁꯤꯡ ꯑꯃꯗꯤ ꯅꯨꯡꯁꯤꯠ ꯁꯤꯠꯂꯛꯄꯗ ꯎꯅꯥꯁꯤꯡ ꯂꯦꯡ ꯆꯠꯄꯒꯤ ꯐꯖꯕ ꯀꯌꯥ ꯁꯤꯡꯊꯥꯗꯨꯅ ꯂꯤꯔꯒ ꯇꯥꯍꯜꯂꯤ ꯑꯇꯩ ꯑꯇꯣꯞꯄ ꯅꯨꯃꯤꯠꯇꯅ ꯑꯃꯨꯛ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯑꯅꯥ ꯂꯥꯏꯌꯦꯡꯁꯪ ꯑꯗꯨꯒꯤ ꯃꯅꯥꯛꯇ ꯐꯥꯎꯗꯨꯅ ꯆꯠꯂꯤꯕ ꯃꯤꯁꯤꯡꯅ ꯆꯠꯅ ꯇꯧꯅꯔꯤꯕ ꯊꯕꯛꯁꯤꯡꯗꯣ ꯑꯃꯠꯇ ꯆꯤꯊꯗꯅ ꯂꯤꯗꯨꯅ ꯇꯥꯍꯟꯕꯁꯨ ꯌꯥꯎꯏ ꯑꯗꯨꯕꯨ ꯃꯇꯝ ꯀꯨꯏꯔꯛꯄꯒ ꯂꯣꯏꯅꯅ ꯍꯧꯒꯠꯇꯨꯅ ꯃꯄꯥꯟꯗ ꯇꯧꯔꯤꯕꯁꯤꯡ ꯌꯦꯡꯕ ꯉꯝꯖꯗ꯭ꯔꯕ ꯅꯨꯄꯥ ꯑꯗꯨꯗꯤ ꯃꯥꯒꯤ ꯄꯥꯝꯕꯩ ꯂꯩꯇꯕ ꯐꯤꯕꯝ ꯑꯗꯨꯗ ꯃꯄꯨꯛꯅꯤꯡꯗ ꯁꯥꯎꯅꯤꯡꯕ ꯄꯣꯛꯂꯛꯂꯦ ꯑꯁꯨꯝ ꯇꯧꯔꯛꯄꯗꯨꯗ ꯀꯥꯏꯅ ꯊꯪꯗꯗꯤ ꯋꯥꯔꯤ ꯂꯤꯔꯤꯕ ꯅꯨꯄꯥ ꯑꯗꯨꯕꯨ ꯌꯦꯡꯅꯤꯡꯗꯕ ꯍꯧꯔꯛꯂꯦ ꯌꯦꯡꯅꯤꯡꯗꯕꯗ ꯅꯠꯇꯅ ꯃꯊꯟ ꯃꯣꯏꯗ ꯁꯤꯡꯅꯕ ꯑꯃꯁꯨ ꯍꯧꯔꯛꯂꯦ ꯑꯍꯤꯡ ꯑꯃ ꯂꯣꯛ ꯀꯟꯅ ꯁꯨꯝ ꯈꯨꯔꯝꯕꯗꯒꯤ ꯊꯣꯡꯅꯥꯎꯒ ꯇꯥꯏꯅꯕ ꯐꯃꯨꯡ ꯊꯥꯕ ꯑꯗꯨꯗ ꯁꯣꯔ ꯍꯣꯟꯕ ꯂꯦꯞꯈꯔꯦ ꯍꯧꯒꯠꯄ ꯉꯝꯗꯕ ꯅꯨꯄꯥꯗꯨꯅ ꯃꯅꯥꯛꯇꯒꯤ ꯁꯔꯤꯛ ꯑꯗꯨ ꯀꯤꯠ ꯅꯝꯗꯨꯅ ꯈꯤꯡꯕꯒꯤ ꯃꯍꯨꯠꯇ ꯇꯨꯃꯤꯟ ꯑꯁꯨꯝ ꯂꯩꯊꯣꯛꯂꯦ ꯅꯣꯡꯉꯥꯜꯂꯒꯗꯤ ꯃꯥꯕꯨ ꯋꯥꯔꯤ ꯀꯌꯥ ꯂꯤꯗꯨꯅ ꯅꯨꯡꯉꯥꯏꯍꯜꯂꯝꯕ ꯅꯨꯄꯥꯗꯨ ꯁꯤꯔꯦ ꯍꯥꯏꯅ ꯗꯣꯛꯇꯔꯅ ꯈꯪꯍꯜꯂꯦ ꯂꯥꯌꯦꯡ ꯀꯥꯗꯒꯤ ꯊꯋꯥꯏ ꯌꯥꯎꯗ꯭ꯔꯕ ꯃꯍꯥꯛꯀꯤ ꯃꯁꯥꯗꯨ ꯏꯜꯂꯒ ꯄꯨꯊꯣꯛꯈꯔꯦ ꯂꯩꯍꯧꯔꯤꯕ ꯅꯨꯄꯥꯗꯨꯅ ꯃꯥꯒꯤ ꯐꯃꯨꯡꯗꯨꯒꯤ ꯊꯣꯡꯅꯥꯎ ꯃꯅꯥꯛꯇꯨꯗ ꯍꯣꯡꯖꯟꯕꯤꯌꯨ ꯍꯥꯏꯖꯔꯝꯃꯤ ꯊꯤꯟꯗꯅ ꯄꯥꯟꯅꯔꯤꯕ ꯅꯨꯄꯥꯗꯨꯅ ꯑꯗꯨꯃꯛ ꯇꯧꯕꯤꯔꯦ ꯑꯗꯨꯕꯨ ꯃꯍꯥꯛꯅ ꯊꯣꯡꯅꯥꯎꯗꯨꯗ ꯌꯦꯡꯊꯣꯛꯂꯨꯕ ꯃꯇꯝꯗꯗꯤ ꯊꯣꯡꯒꯤ ꯇꯣꯟ ꯐꯥꯎꯕ ꯇꯨ ꯆꯨꯡꯈꯤꯕ ꯈꯣꯡꯗꯒꯤꯅ ꯇꯣꯟ ꯐꯥꯎꯕ ꯇꯨ ꯆꯨꯡꯈꯤꯕ ꯈꯪꯍꯧꯔꯝꯗꯦ ꯃꯔꯝꯗꯤ ꯊꯣꯡꯅꯥꯎꯒꯤ ꯋꯥꯡꯃꯗ ꯂꯩꯔꯝꯂꯤꯕ ꯄꯥꯛ ꯑꯣꯏꯔꯝꯗ꯭ꯔꯦ ꯆꯦꯛꯀꯤ ꯋꯥꯡꯂꯕ ꯐꯛꯂꯥꯡ ꯑꯃ ꯑꯣꯏꯔꯝꯂꯦ ꯃꯍꯥꯛꯀ ꯂꯩꯃꯤꯟꯅꯔꯝꯕ ꯅꯨꯄꯥ ꯑꯗꯨꯅ ꯐꯖꯔꯕ ꯃꯆꯨ ꯃꯃꯦꯟꯇꯅ ꯊꯜꯂꯕ ꯋꯥꯔꯤ ꯀꯌꯥ ꯃꯉꯣꯟꯗ ꯂꯤꯈꯤꯕꯗꯨ ꯃꯍꯥꯛꯀꯤ ꯋꯥꯈꯜꯅ ꯁꯥꯒꯠꯄ ꯃꯍꯥꯛꯀꯤ ꯄꯥꯝꯕꯩ ꯂꯩꯇ꯭ꯔꯕ ꯃꯔꯨꯞ ꯑꯗꯨꯒꯤ ꯄꯨꯛꯅꯤꯡꯒꯤ ꯑꯋꯥꯕ ꯆꯣꯛꯊꯕꯕꯨ ꯈꯔꯗ ꯑꯣꯏꯔꯕꯁꯨ ꯁꯥꯐꯍꯟꯒꯦ ꯈꯟꯗꯨꯅ ꯂꯤꯔꯝꯕ ꯋꯥꯔꯤꯁꯤꯡ ꯉꯥꯛꯇꯅꯤ ꯍꯥꯏꯕ ꯍꯧꯖꯤꯛꯇ ꯈꯪꯂꯛꯏ ꯇꯁꯦꯡꯕ ꯊꯃꯣꯏꯅ ꯃꯁꯥꯒꯤ ꯀꯥꯟꯅꯕ ꯊꯤꯗ꯭ꯔꯕ ꯅꯨꯡꯁꯤꯕꯒ ꯂꯣꯏꯅꯅ ꯂꯤꯕꯤꯔꯝꯕ ꯋꯥꯔꯤꯁꯤꯡꯅꯤ ꯋꯥꯔꯤ ꯑꯁꯤꯒꯤ ꯃꯇꯥꯡꯗ ꯈꯜꯂꯨꯕ ꯃꯇꯝꯗ ꯑꯩꯒꯤ ꯃꯤꯠꯌꯦꯡ ꯋꯥꯈꯜꯗ ꯑꯑꯣꯟꯕ ꯑꯃ ꯄꯨꯔꯛꯇꯅ ꯈꯛ ꯇꯣꯛꯇꯦ ꯍꯦꯟꯅ ꯅꯨꯡꯉꯥꯏꯅ ꯍꯤꯡꯅꯅꯕꯒꯤꯗꯃꯛ ꯍꯦꯟꯅ ꯃꯄꯨꯡ ꯐꯥꯅ ꯄꯨꯟꯁꯤꯕꯨ ꯂꯦꯟꯅꯅꯕꯒꯤꯗꯃꯛꯇ ꯄꯨꯟꯁꯤꯒꯤ ꯂꯃꯈꯥꯡꯗ ꯑꯋꯥꯕ ꯈꯨꯗꯣꯡꯊꯤꯕ ꯊꯦꯡꯅꯔꯛꯄ ꯃꯇꯝꯗ ꯏꯁꯥ ꯏꯁꯥꯗ ꯍꯪꯖꯕ ꯇꯥꯏ ꯑꯣꯟꯅ ꯇꯩꯅꯕꯒꯤ ꯃꯁꯛ ꯑꯣꯏꯔꯕ ꯐꯤꯚꯝ ꯑꯁꯤ ꯅꯠꯇ꯭ꯔꯕ ꯍꯦꯟꯅ ꯁꯥꯐꯕ ꯍꯦꯟꯅ ꯂꯧꯁꯤꯡꯒꯤ ꯃꯆꯥꯛ ꯌꯥꯎꯕ ꯍꯦꯟꯅ ꯊꯋꯥꯏꯕꯨ ꯃꯉꯥꯜ ꯄꯤꯕ ꯉꯝꯕ ꯃꯤꯠꯌꯦꯡꯅ ꯌꯦꯡꯕꯗꯤ ꯌꯥꯗ꯭ꯔꯕꯔꯥ ꯁ꯭ꯇꯦꯐꯦꯟ ꯍꯣꯀꯤꯟꯁ ꯀꯧꯕ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯃꯇꯝꯁꯤꯒꯤ ꯈ꯭ꯋꯥꯏꯗꯒꯤ ꯆꯪꯈꯣꯟꯕ ꯐꯤꯖꯤꯛꯁ ꯑꯗꯨꯅ ꯍꯥꯏꯈꯤꯕꯅꯤ ꯍꯥꯏꯕ ꯋꯥ ꯑꯃ ꯂꯩ ꯃꯗꯨꯗꯤ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯂꯩꯔꯤꯕꯁꯦ ꯏꯆꯝ ꯆꯝꯕ ꯃꯌꯥꯏ ꯑꯣꯏꯕ ꯑꯣꯏꯔꯞꯅ ꯊꯋꯥꯟꯃꯤꯆꯥꯛ ꯅꯨꯃꯤꯠ ꯀꯧꯕ ꯏꯃꯨꯡꯗ ꯂꯩꯕ ꯄ꯭ꯂꯥꯅꯦꯠ ꯀꯈꯅꯥꯎ ꯑꯃꯈꯛꯇꯅꯤ ꯃꯁꯤꯅ ꯂꯩꯔꯤꯕꯕꯨ ꯒꯦꯂꯦꯛꯁꯤ ꯀꯣꯇꯤ ꯀꯌꯥ ꯀꯌꯥꯒꯤ ꯆꯤꯗꯥꯏꯗ ꯂꯩꯕ ꯃꯐꯝ ꯑꯃꯗꯅꯤ ꯋꯥꯐꯝ ꯑꯁꯤ ꯇꯥꯕꯗ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯃꯤꯠꯌꯦꯡ ꯈꯔ ꯍꯣꯡꯂꯣꯏꯗꯕꯒꯤ ꯃꯔꯝ ꯀꯔꯤ ꯂꯩꯕꯒꯦ ꯑꯅꯧꯕ ꯄꯥꯎꯁꯤ ꯇꯥꯕꯗ ꯅꯍꯥꯛꯅ ꯃꯥꯌꯣꯛꯅꯔꯤ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯤꯕ ꯈꯨꯗꯣꯡꯆꯥꯗꯕꯁꯤꯡ ꯑꯗꯨ ꯀꯌꯥ ꯌꯥꯝꯅ ꯆꯥꯎꯔꯤꯕꯒꯦ ꯅꯍꯥꯛꯅ ꯍꯛꯊꯦꯡꯅꯅ ꯑꯔꯨꯕ ꯋꯥꯐꯝ ꯀꯌꯥ ꯅꯠꯇ꯭ꯔꯒ ꯍꯧꯖꯤꯛ ꯃꯥꯌꯣꯛꯅꯔꯤꯕ ꯑꯋꯥꯕ ꯀꯌꯥ ꯑꯗꯨꯕꯨ ꯅꯍꯥꯛꯅ ꯈꯜꯂꯤꯕ ꯑꯗꯨ ꯌꯧꯅ ꯆꯥꯎꯕ꯭ꯔꯅꯦ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯗꯤ ꯄ꯭ꯂꯥꯅꯦꯠꯁꯤꯗ ꯃꯤꯀꯨꯞ ꯈꯔꯇꯃꯛ ꯆꯠꯂꯤꯕꯅꯤ ꯂꯣꯏꯈꯝ ꯅꯥꯏꯗꯕ ꯃꯇꯝꯒꯤ ꯆꯦꯟꯗ ꯊꯣꯛꯂꯤꯕ ꯄꯨꯝꯅꯃꯛꯀꯤ ꯃꯅꯨꯡꯗ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯄꯨꯟꯁꯤ ꯑꯁꯤꯗꯤ ꯇꯟꯗꯟꯒꯤ ꯃꯅꯤꯡꯗ ꯉꯥꯟꯕ ꯃꯩ ꯑꯗꯨꯒꯨꯝꯕꯅꯤ ꯃꯔꯝ ꯑꯗꯨꯅ ꯍꯤꯡꯉꯨꯔꯕꯅꯤꯅ ꯆꯠꯂꯤꯕ ꯈꯣꯡꯆꯠ ꯑꯁꯤꯕꯨ ꯃꯍꯥꯎ ꯈꯪꯅ ꯂꯧꯅꯕ ꯍꯣꯠꯅꯐꯝ ꯊꯣꯛꯏ ꯁꯤꯗ ꯑꯍꯨꯝꯁꯨꯕ ꯂꯣꯏꯖꯔꯦ ꯃꯔꯤꯁꯨꯕꯗ ꯇꯔꯥꯏꯅ ꯈꯟꯒꯅꯨ ꯅꯨꯡꯁꯤꯕꯕꯨ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯤ ꯑꯋꯥꯡꯕ ꯊꯥꯛꯇ ꯃꯥꯏ ꯄꯥꯛꯅ ꯋꯥꯍꯟꯊꯣꯛ ꯃꯄꯨꯡ ꯐꯥꯅ ꯂꯩꯔꯕ ꯄꯨꯟꯁꯤꯕꯨ ꯄꯨꯜꯂꯤꯕ ꯁꯅꯥꯒꯤ ꯂꯤꯛꯂꯥꯡ ꯑꯗꯨꯒꯤ ꯃꯃꯤꯡꯗꯤ ꯏꯁꯥꯕꯨ ꯋꯥꯔꯛ ꯆꯦꯠꯄ ꯀꯧꯏ ꯋꯥꯔꯛ ꯆꯦꯠꯄ ꯍꯥꯏꯗꯤ ꯌꯥꯝꯅ ꯃꯥꯒꯤ ꯇꯥꯏꯝ ꯑꯣꯐ ꯀꯔꯤ ꯍꯥꯏꯅꯤ ꯑꯩꯅ ꯈꯟꯖꯔꯤꯕ ꯇꯥꯏꯝꯗꯣ ꯑꯗꯨ ꯑꯩꯅ ꯏꯁꯥꯅ ꯏꯪꯖꯕ ꯅꯠꯇ꯭ꯔꯒ ꯑꯍꯟꯁꯤꯡꯅ ꯄꯤꯕ ꯌꯥꯝꯅ ꯋꯥꯔꯛꯄꯤꯕ ꯑꯩ ꯉꯟꯇꯥ ꯍꯧꯒꯠꯀꯗꯕꯅꯤ ꯑꯗꯨ ꯇꯧꯒꯗꯕꯅꯤ ꯑꯗꯥ ꯇꯧꯒꯗꯕꯅꯤ ꯍꯥꯏꯗꯅ ꯌꯥꯝ ꯋꯥꯔꯛꯄꯤꯕꯗꯣ ꯑꯗꯨ ꯋꯥꯔꯛ ꯆꯦꯠꯄ ꯃꯁꯤ ꯍꯥꯏꯕ ꯑꯁꯤ ꯂꯩꯔꯕꯗꯇ ꯅꯁꯥꯅ ꯇꯧꯐꯝ ꯊꯣꯛꯏ ꯍꯥꯏꯅ ꯈꯟꯖꯕ ꯊꯕꯛ ꯑꯣꯏꯅꯗꯤ ꯁꯨꯛꯇꯧ ꯇꯧꯔꯨꯗ꯭ꯔꯤꯕ ꯀꯌꯥꯗꯨ ꯄꯥꯡꯊꯣꯛꯄ ꯉꯝꯒꯗꯧꯔꯤꯕꯅꯤ ꯏꯁꯥ ꯋꯥꯔꯛ ꯆꯦꯠꯄ ꯌꯥꯎꯗꯕ ꯇꯁꯦꯡꯅ ꯄꯥꯟꯗꯝ ꯊꯝꯕ ꯉꯝꯂꯣꯏ ꯋꯥꯔꯛꯁꯤ ꯏꯁꯥꯅ ꯑꯩꯒꯤ ꯋꯥꯔꯛ ꯆꯦꯠꯄꯗꯣ ꯑꯩꯅ ꯅꯤꯇꯤ ꯅꯤꯌꯣꯝꯗꯣ ꯏꯁꯥꯒꯤ ꯃꯇꯝ ꯅꯤꯡꯊꯤꯅ ꯁꯤꯖꯤꯟꯅꯕ ꯉꯝꯂꯣꯏ ꯃꯤꯒ ꯅꯤꯡꯊꯤꯅ ꯂꯣꯏꯅꯕꯁꯨ ꯉꯝꯂꯣꯏ
이마기 connectionꯁꯤ ꯑꯃꯨꯛꯇꯪ ꯉꯥꯏꯃꯤꯟꯅꯁꯤ ꯑꯩ ꯑꯃꯨꯛꯇꯪ ꯃꯦꯁꯦꯖ ꯇꯧꯖꯈꯤꯒꯦ
ꯑꯁꯤꯅ ꯃꯔꯝ ꯑꯣꯏꯗꯨꯅ ꯄꯨꯟꯁꯤꯕꯨ ꯍꯤꯡꯒꯦ ꯍꯥꯏꯕ ꯑꯃ ꯌꯥꯎꯅ ꯍꯤꯡꯕ ꯍꯦꯜꯂꯛꯀꯅꯤ ꯀꯔꯤꯒꯨꯝꯕ ꯅꯨꯃꯤꯠ ꯑꯃꯗ ꯀꯔꯤꯒꯨꯝꯕ ꯏꯆꯦꯜ ꯑꯃꯗ ꯎꯅꯥ ꯑꯃ ꯁꯨꯝ ꯇꯥꯎꯊꯔꯛꯄꯒꯤ ꯃꯇꯧꯒꯨꯝ ปุนชีบุคันโดปะอดุกิโมตาไอชานะสัตปะปามบ่โอยหันบะปามบาลัมบีอดุอินโดนะสัตปะงามกันนี่ไอจัดปะอดุกิอาสาดเซมินาร์ดาไอนะมายามดาไฮคิบะดุนีnasana nasada duki matik krak laksali be makai punchi se hing balai na thokani na ki punchi gi matik ti na na tauge khali bataba sing amadi lodi bo warep sing apa masim hom khan badagi horaga paning balai lokhatuna pa ba ayu hogat pagi matam lepa amadi no magi manung da na khali ba pamja ba wakhal sing adugi matik sing ado sengwali bani na asumbani khanduna akomba arai bani khanduna lai chokpa yade apamba khanban nasage aningba chena lakhinduna thamliba doki matik makai masagi nasagi punsigi yasel na khuda pai bangam ni bani aije aina domda na handle to bu ni thopang bangam ba punsi mapung ban na hingliba du ma mioi singa do kudong cha ba madi waroi da bathi na thabak pang thok pada matam manghande makoina masagi thamoi da kari hairi haibadu taba ngami masan masabu asingbagi thabangni haiba makai du pangthui adu masigi haina be sinadi makoi bu aso ba sangnai ba mi ama oheli be se mai pak la ba mioi singna mai thi ba kangbu tongning de khan ba thabak sing du tawbagi haina bi lei asumna wareng iba amadi wakal khan ba grace na hai tawbagi di makoi do madu tawdaba yade hainuna tawbadi natte adubu makoina tawningdabado masagi pandama mathambagi wakal pangal adugi makha ponna lei haibadi ai tanba hainingdaba pokpa yade tawge khalabadi tawgadabani haina mapukning do leptuna pangthokpa duneba tama palsuba sahi chada english ki aiba tam senary haks lin chu masiga mana ba waroi aman loki asumna hai mahi masing tambagi khwaidagi maman liam laba mahi di tawfam thok laba thabak ado tawningda ba thidana tawdaba yadraba matamda pangthohan ba duni aduna aristotle na su wafam masigi matangda mawong sima de haibirami karigumba ama tawnana bagi tamsilliba adu thabak adu tawraga hena tambani yum saba mi haibase yumdu saraga oiraklibani hap khongba har khongba mi su adu mangai khongdaga hairaklibani aduna masiga manaba asumba thabak tawraga aikhoise asumba chatpa mi haibadu oirakadorimi oiraini isana laksinjaduna thabak tawraga aikhoi isana isabu laksinjaba mi haibadu oi aina self control do aduna thona phabagi thabak tawbadagi aikhoi ase thona phaba mi oirai asumna mari suba phawa loisale aduga manga subadana nongmagi isinba lepkanu yam phajaba habit ngaktani aibanna thambirami se nungtigi isinche ama suba haibase isagi chawkhatpa purak nabagi achoba khongthang amani nongmagi manungda phanglakpa haktheng na balausing aduga loinana madu phangba matamda nahakna khangoubasing adu isanduna thamba haibase nongmagi nahakpu singba amadi khangba hengat kadori bani isana isabu khangbagi changsu hengalakani aduga asoiba aranba tawbasu asum hantharakani asumna nungtigi isinche ama subana tawgadaba thabak maye chenghanbata natana tawge khalibado pungning so choktana isabu thamba ngamgani isinche ama isinbagi thabak tawbana isagi hakthengna ba wari sanabagi khudongchaba masupiri wakhalluna khanthaba kaunaraba matamsida taibangshida masinam nangonda wakhal mapung manung phangna khanthahangani masina nangonda mai senglaba wakhal khanbasu ngamhangani amadi hena mangal phanglaba punsigi marel su hingan bangongani mana ngasagi nongmai isin belekonu habasi isallagadi kanamta da disap tawroidabani masigi mathakta asoba maroiba wafamsing maramda isagi nunggi meyeng ado lachan tawnanaba itinpham amasu piragani aina madu habitu legragadi Tauruba tabaksunga mai pakpa porakiba isana sizinakiba poramsing adu kaudana isinduna tambanga mangani. Masida sunatana awang bathaki sinfongi oiba, lanai gi oiba, thawai gi lambel gi maru oiba, tausinga do mai onsinba ngamgani. Isinche haibasi dari nate, dari haibana thawduking isenpam, isinche journal haibasina, makoising adu nainaraga apapata sang onpam aduni. Isinche thambana nahakna tauriba thabaktu karino, madu karigidamakta tauribano, madu tawdagi kari khanglabage haibadu punamak khanthan bangami. Amaromda isinche natana isinba asina isagi wakhal lausing chakhothanbada nainaba thabak tawpham ama piduna mateng oheli aduga nahaki haukiba matambu mangda thamduna nahaki tungda oirakadaba punsina hena mai pakpa purangnabagi lambi ama phatpa ngamali yam important oiba parani aduga nahaki haukiba matambu mangda thamduna nahaki tungda oirakadaba punsina hena mai pakpa purangnabagi lambi ama phatpa ngamali ana layengi matangda sijanba miyoi-singna lanai isinche that no mada yamdrabada minute 35 da oirabasu ibana hakchang phagalali laina tinadagi ngakthoknaba isagi pangal kankhatlali nake apunba sajat pujat ta ahongba purakpa ngamhalli haibase thengnare hairi ningsingadabadi nahaki punsi asigi maramda wakal tongngai oirabadi masigi maramda ibadi yaidana sida muk loire ada ngasisi ai chapter nate magi kana rabo wari si manga khati aina pathokjare masida aibu ai losanjage aduga ichanupi gisu magi leibanina ai khara suwab hogale aduna ai punamok khuramjen
Imabu Thagachari, Akui Mayanda, Smaina Robin Sharma, na Ibiba, English ta Ibiba, Who Will Cry When You Die, Habisi translate Taurakanda, Akui life lesson, Habatareko, Masi Amamam, Akui the Tapiba Kitamakta. The Ima Isingam Tank Tapiu, Duga, I Huzik, Kanakazage, Imasim Makadam Putazage, Duga. Horen aigisi paapaloiraba matungda ima amuk pukhatlakanda imaga amuk wa akhoi khanaminasi. So today the book what I am picking up is called The Socio-Cultural and Historical Accounts of Manipur, written by Naoroibam Indramani. So this is the book. This book is It was published in 2015 in Imphal. Published by Mrs. N. Medhabati for NI Publications, Sagolban, Naoremthong, Imphal. So there are very interesting chapter in this book. Early ethnic groups of Manipur, of people in Manipur, Loi communities of Manipur, ancient medical practices, special features of Kangla, Manipuri textile, accounts of Kabo Valley, the boundaries of Manipur, Manipuri horse, state formation of Manipur, development of markets in Manipur, Arambai, martial traditions of Manipur, Battle of Kongjom, Hira Chandra and 7-year devastation, bibliography. So a lot of very interesting topics are written. And today I want to pick up accounts of Kabo Valley. The Kabo Valley, the territory ceded by Manipur state in 1834 to the King of Burma, lies between the Hairok and Yoma ranges of mountains, which bound the eastern side of the Manipur Valley and the Ningthi or Chindwen River, including the range of hills east of the Kabo Valley proper, known to the Manipuris as Angoching Range. It commences from the foot of the hills in latitude 24 degree 30 north and extends south to 22 degree 30, where it terminates on the left bank of the Kathe Khoaing or Manipur River, which falls into the Ningthi or Kwangden River and marks the southern limit of the Kale Division. The valley is divided into three principalities: Samjok, Khambat, and Kale. The first and last were governed by descendants of the original San chieftains who were dependent upon Mongmarong, but Khambat appeared never to have regained its former prosperity. After its destruction by the united forces of Pong and Manipur, and during the Burmese supremacy, their principal officer on their frontier derived his title from it, though Tammu was always his place of residence and the headquarters of the military force of the province. The Kabo Valley was semi-independent, the northern and middle portions being ruled by the king of Samjok, the name of the village in which he resides, whose king was hereditary in his family. He was generally titled the Swabha, feudatory chief of Thongkwat, Samjok by the Burmese government. Before the first Burmese War, the northern and middle divisions contained a population of about 10,000 inhabitants. The southern portion was ruled by the Kale, the boundaries between the territories of the two chiefs being Numsalung River. The Kabo Valley was in the possession of Burma on the outbreak of the First Burmese War and had been so for 12 years before. For about the same period preceding this 12 years, it has been in the possession of Manipur. In the Treaty of Yandabu, the upper and middle portion of the Kabo Valley was not ceded to the Burmese. On the other hand, though the said two portions were taken by Manipur during the war, these portions were not retroceded by the treaty. In fact, no mention whatever was made of the Kabo Valley in the Treaty of Yandabu. With regard to Manipur itself, it was simply stipulated that should Gambhir Singh desire to return to that country, he shall be recognized by the king of Awa as Raja thereof. Nothing was mentioned about the boundary between Manipur and Burma. The government of India considered it, but just and proper that all the places and territory in the ancient country of Manipur which were in possession of Gambhir Singh at the date of the signing of the Treaty of Yandabu should belong to Gambhir Singh. The Samjok and Khambat division of the Kabo Valley as far east as the Ningthi or Kenduen River were accordingly given to Manipur, and the Ningthi River form the boundary between Manipur and Burma. Possession of Kabo Valley by Manipur. In the middle of the 15th century, the strength of the Manipur was reflected in the military aggrandizement and territorial expansionism. During the period, the boundaries of the Manipur reached the Kabo Valley in the west bank of the Ningthi or Chinwin. The credit for the military and territorial expansion of the kingdom was rightly given to King Ningthaukomba and his illustrious son Kiamba. King Kiamba ascended the throne in 1467 AD at the age of 24 years. It was due to the high respect for Manipur's power and influence that the king of the San Kingdom of Pong in Upper Burma proposed to the young King Kiamba to participate in a joint military expedition in the Chinwin Basin, which was the home of several Shan principalities. The Sans of Upper Burma or the San state proper were generally known to the Meiteis as Pongs, and the San of the Chinwin Basin were known as the Kabos. Kabo was the name of the ethnic group and the valley inhabited by them. According to Soraren Macha Kumba, Zaitharol Kumbaba, and Ningthaurol Lambuba, it was agreed that both the forces of Manipur and Pong would come to an appointed place for the expedition. Therefore, the united forces of Manipur and Pong invaded the Principality of Kiang Khambat in 1470 AD. The joint forces of Manipur and Pong defeated the Kiang Khambat, and its chief Chausengba was captured with other female members of his family. The two kings, Kiamba and Pong, king of Kekomba, were very friendly, and they concluded a treaty of friendship which fixed the boundary between Manipur and Pong. Zaitharol Kumbaba, the Royal Chronicle of Manipur, and the Soraren Macha Kumba gave the boundary in a very clear term. In the northeast, Mukong Mungyang was for Manipur, and the land of the dwarf mango groves was for Pong in the east. It is up to Loiziri Hill in the south, up to Miyatong. Regarding Samjok, the eastern portion was for Pong and the western portion was for Manipur. The major portion of Kabo Valley was annexed to Manipur. It was the first treaty concluded between Manipur and a foreign sovereign power which was recorded in the Chronicle and the Soraren Macha Kunkumba. This was the international recognition of the Kingdom of the Meiteis by a power in Upper Burma. The Kingdom of Manipur was a full-fledged sovereign country with internal and external independence in the true sense of the term. From that very time, the major portion of the Kabo Valley was under the possession of the kings of Manipur. The reason for joint expedition of King Kiamba and Pong King Kekomba was also clearly mentioned by R.B. Pemberton in his book The Eastern Frontier of India, that Suhumkum in the year 1474 AD sent an embassy headed by a San nobleman called Chaulangai to Kiamba, the reigning prince of Manipur, requesting a daughter in princess, which was acceded to. And in the following year, the princess left Manipur for Pong, escorted by Chaulangai. On reaching the Sekmu Hill, which was close upon the western frontier of the Samjok territory, the caravanserai was attacked and the princess carried off by the Raja of Khumbat, who had been laying in wait at the foot of the hill for this purpose with a chosen band of followers. The Pong nobleman Chaulangai effected his escape and reaching Mongmaurong related the disaster and capture of the princess. Measures were immediately taken to avenge so gross an insult. The king of Pong crossed the Ningthi or Quang River at the head of the considerable force and entering the Kabo Valley, and there joined by the Manipur king with all his men. After that, the joint forces of Meitei and Pong besieged Khumbat. After an obstinate defense of the Khambat king, and the king of Khambat made an escape to the south on a spotted elephant. A tract of country was then made over to the king of Manipur by the king of Pong, which was extending east of Nauziri, a range of hills running between the Mu and Chinwin Ningthi rivers, which was then established as the boundary between the two countries. In the south, the boundary limit of Manipur extended up to Miyatong or Mia Hills, and in the north up to the very celebrated mango tree near Mukong between the Nauziri Hills and the Chindwin River, where the two princes separated and returned to their respective capitals. Thus, the major portion of the Kabo Valley, that is the Principality of Samjok and Khambhat, were under the possession of the kings of Manipur up to the period of King Chaurajit, passing intermittently for short periods under the Kingdom of Burma according to the fortunes of war. The southern principality scale mostly in the valley of that name to the south of Kabo Valley proper remained under the suzerainty of Burma, though it was occasionally occupied and subjugated by the forces of Manipur. Within a very short period of King Chaurajit's accession to the throne of Manipur, Margit, the younger brother of Chaurajit, made an unsuccessful attempt to seize power and fled to Tammu. There he sought the intervention of Budopaya (1779–1819), king of Burma, who brought about a reconciliation between the two brothers which lasted for a very short period. Margit made two successive attempts on the capital, but failing to dislodge Chaurajit, he fled to Kasar. He overtures to the Kasar ruler Krishna Chandra. Having failed, he returned to Burma and sought the help of the ruler of Burma, Bodaupaya. Margit agreed to renounce the claim of Manipur over Kabo Valley and even went to the extent of acknowledging the suzerainty of Burma over Manipur if he could be placed on the throne of Manipur with the Burmese help. On the condition which Margit recourse to the king of Burma, King Bodopoya accepted to help Margit for invading against his brother Chaurajit. In the year 1812, Margit, with the help of Burmese forces, were able to defeat Chaurjit, and Chaurjit had to flee to Kasar, leaving Manipur to Margit. Margit had ascended the throne with the help of Burmese forces and had agreed to acknowledge the suzerainty of the ruler of Burma in return for the latter's assistance. Within a few years of accession, he was able to consolidate his power and for all purpose did not recognize the presumption of suzerainty of the Burmese ruler. Margit sent his men to cut timbers for Kabo Valley, and he constructed his palace like a Burmese palace by roofing with gold plates. According to the Burmese sumptuary laws, no subordinate king of Burma are allowed to construct a guilty palace like that of Burma. The Burmese king Bodau Paya was extremely hurt by such offense of Margit, but at that time Bodopaya was too old, so he could do nothing against Margit immediately and died in 1819. Bodopaya was succeeded by his grandson Bugidao in 1819 after ascending the throne. Bugidao immediately asserted his authority over Manipur and summoned Margit to the Burmese capital to pay homage in the coronation ceremony, but Margit pleaded his inability to attend due to the hostile intentions of his brother Chaurajit and Gambhir Singh. Offences against the Burmese sanctuary laws as to the number of roofs on the spire of Margit's palace and the amount of gilding on it was made an excuse for dispatching troops against him. The Burmese army marched for Manipur at the close of the rainy season, and after a successful encounter, Margit with his army fled to Kasar. The country was subdued by the Burmese forces and Manipur was utterly devastated for 7 years, up to the period of coming of Gambhir Singh in the year 1825. The period from 1812, that is the year of ascending the throne of Margit, to the period of 1812, Kabo Valley was under the possession of Burma. Margit, after reaching Kasar, surrendered himself to Chorajit. The three brothers, Chorajit, Gambhir Singh and Margit, immediately formed an alliance and occupied the whole of Kasar kingdom. Govinda Chandra, the ruler of Kasar, fled to Sylhet and applied to the Governor-General to reinstate his throne, but the British declined to intervene in the affair of Kasar, and the district was apportioned among the three brothers. The alliance of the three brothers had never been strong, and Gambhir Singh, after returning from his raid in Manipur in 1823, soon quarrelled with Chorajit and occupied the whole of Kasar. The British were carrying on negotiations with Gambhir Singh to have his effective cooperation in their operations against the Burmese forces. Gambhir Singh expressed his willingness to advance into Manipur with 500 men, which was later to constitute the Manipur Levy. Gambhir Singh, Nar Singh, and this detachment were trained under British officers at Badarpur before going into operations in Manipur. On the 17th May 1925, Gambhir Singh with 500 Manipuri soldiers commenced his march on Manipur from Sylhet. Lieutenant Pemberton, a British officer, also accompanied him. After a long march, the contingent reached the western border of the Manipur Valley on 10 June 1825. The Burmese offered hardly any resistance, and Gambhir Singh occupied Imphal. By the end of June, he returned to Sylhet, leaving behind only 300 soldiers to defend Manipur. On December 18, 1825, Gambhir Singh returned to Manipur after obtaining reinforcement of 1,500 troops of Manipur Levy. He was accompanied by Captain Grant. In early January 1826, Gambhir Singh advanced with his troops to the Kabo Valley and, after a heavy fighting with the Burmese forces, occupied the valley. After the occupation of the Kabo Valley, Gambhir Singh entered Burma and on February 1, 1826, reached the western bank of the Ningthi River. In the last 2 years, the British forces had by stages overwhelmed the Burmese armies, and the emperor had realized the defeat was imminent as early as April 1825. He was eager to negotiate for the end of hostilities, but the severe terms offered by the British were not acceptable to him. February 1826 found him hemmed in from all sides, and he realized that further resistance was not possible. He sued for peace, and the First Anglo-Burmese War came to a close with the signing of the Treaty of Yandabu on February 24, 1826, a town bearing the name within 45 miles of Awa. So this is a very big chapter, and let me see how long it will take to read the remaining. Dispute regarding the right to the Kabo Valley. So there is details about the dispute. Then there is also detail about the Kabo Valley, cession of the Kabo Valley to Burma. Then compensation to Manipur for the loss of Kabo Valley. So I think this is going to be very important and knowledgeable. And all this has been written, with reference from multiple books. So I think I will let all of you refer to this book. Very important knowledge for all of us. The Socio-Cultural and Historical Account of Manipur, written by Naoroibam Indramani. So let me try to see if I can get my mother back. So thank you everyone for watching. Thank you Tampa Devi for watching. Henry Sanasam na thanks haibirai. Pinky Loitong Bomna Yamna Nungaijay Sumaina Nainabasi Haina Haibirai. Niju Arambam Yengpiri. Akhoi magi connection si amtang yengsi imana amuk yaubiragadi magi knowledge leibadu amuk akhoi mangondagi taminaba da nungaigani. So, there are so many things that we don't know about. Adubu larik me amse akhoi paraga de akhoi the knowledge dam lairakani na kanjay. Sidaisa se akhoi ki Manipur ki king si moi Karnataka moi masen haitare ko. Brother sing se Karnataka amana amagi mateng pangnaba. Adugi mamitai unity leitabasi hujik sudum ui the thaina sudum sumaina the same family the machin manau Karnataka the ningthau ui begi haitare ko masin tawlis the imagi connection sisu aina ma changak pasi ai amtang mute tawjage ko ima changbire imagi connection si yengsi imagi connection si ima changak padi ure aduga kano video si udre okay aduna imagi connection se mana amok changbada metbada kitang amok soiba mali akhoi masi changak tabase mumngai tabaina the mangai boy nang tang si matek ama pas paminasi yamna nungai matang dispute regarding the right of the Cabo Valley. Imagi connection se changdi change aduga kano activate tawdaba male amtang check tawbi. The right of Burma to the Cabo Valley became a subject of dispute from the signing of the Treaty of Yandabu in February 1826. The Commissioner of Sylhet, in a letter dated 19 April 1826, remarked that the Ningthi was no doubt the original and natural boundary between Manipur and Burma, and that if the Burmese were permitted to cross it, it would be difficult to define a line of demarcation that would preclude the possibility of future dispute. In acknowledging this letter, the Government of India said that it was unquestionably most desirable that the river Ningthi should form henceforward as it did of old the boundary between Awa and Manipur, and Gambhir Singh, having been in possession of the Pangurna Kubo when the treaty was signed, we are fairly entitled to require the relinquishment of the integral and material portion of his, i.e. the king's, Raj. Still, however, if the point is contested by the Burmese on the ground of the Parguna having been formally annexed to the territories of Awa for some years prior to the war, while no provision is made by the treaty of any alteration in the existing boundaries of the Raj, the question must be settled by negotiation on the best terms that circumstances will permit. In the instruction to the envoy at Awa dated 30th June 1826, it was said that his lordship in council trusted that as the Burmese retreated from the Kabo Valley and retired beyond the Ningthi, he would succeed in establishing that river as the boundary. In the instruction to Major General Sir A. Campbell dated 15th June 1827, it was said that His Excellency in Council was decidedly of opinion that the right of Gambhir Singh should be maintained to the northern and middle portion of the Kabo Valley, bounded on the east by the Ningthi. It was also said that he would not have failed to observe that the acquisition of Kale, the southern portion of the valley, would secure the marked and desirable boundary of the Nurinjira River. The cession of the Burmese for this portion of the valley, however, it was said could not be reasonably expected, and in its annexation to Manipur would therefore have to become a subject of negotiation. In February 1827, the question of the boundary was discussed between the Burmese ministers and Mr. Crawford, the British envoy. The Burmese claims were so extravagant that if acceded to, Gambhir Singh would have been deprived of what he considered the larger portion of the proper principality of Manipur that had fabricated a map showing the Burmese frontier to extend nearly to the Manipur capital. Captain Grant and Lieutenant Pemberton were appointed commissioners to meet the Burmese authorities and settle the boundary in accordance with the principles enunciated by the Government of India, and they were told that as a preliminary measure it would be proper to suggest to Gambhir Singh to fix his post on such line to the southward as would include the northern and central district of the Kabo Valley, regarding his right to which by actual conquest, not discussion, was to be allowed. In April 1828, the commissioners met on the bank of Ningthi or Kwenden River, but little could be done in consequence of the very advanced state of the season, and the Burmese commissioner proposed to postpone it until the ensuing year. A regular written engagement was made by the commissioners on both sides to meet in 1829. The Burmese commissioners then pretended that Ningthi was not in the Kwenden but a river to the westward of the Kabo Valley. This, Sir A. Campbell observed, might alter the decision of the government. Subsequently, a Burmese map was transmitted to Calcutta in which the Ningthi and Kwenden were laid down as separate rivers. This map was sent to the British commissioners in Manipur with instruction to inquire and report whether any such river as that laid down on it as the Ningthi existed. It was observed to them that the map had probably been made to suit the views of the Burmese, and they were instructed to propose to the Burmese commissioner when they met them in the ensuing cold weather to visit the large river said to exist in the westwards of the Kabo Valley. It In the improbable event of the Ningthi flowing to the westward of the Kabo Valley, the British commissioners were called on for their opinion whether the Burmese establishing themselves on the upper and middle divisions of the Kabo Valley would be particularly objectionable. In their reply, their officers clearly proved the deception attempted to be practiced by the Burmese. Lieutenant Pemberton scouted the idea that the Ningthi had been mistaken for a small river as stated by the Burmese. In a private letter to the commissioner in Sylhet, he remarked, "You may depend on it, the Burmese knew as well as ourselves that Kandwan was the river to be made the boundary and no other. Sir A. Campbell expressly told them so, and in consequence of a representation to the effect, they prevented the men from crossing the river into the Kabo Valley." So there is a lot of details. I'm going to read this offline. Very knowledgeable to understand, the history of Kabo Valley. So with that, I'm going to close today's session. It's already 1 hour. The ima si changak pamasi maigi technical difficulty leire duna puna mapu thagachari koi program si bibaki tamakta kurumjer.